the Middle Age Gaming Podcast. We are so glad to have you here. Today we are going to be talking about games we are playing. Our topic is two mid-tier headsets that you can see Adam and I wearing right now. And we're also going to talk about news, the news that has sort of excited us this week and kept us thinking or talking about things. And so a quick PSA before I hand things over to Adam. We were supposed to start at 10:30 a.m. Taipei time or 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in America today. Except we had loads of issues. The good news is I have finally got NDI working. If you are a new podcaster, NDI allows you to sort of capture windows, so that works. And we should be streaming to 3 platforms today. If we are not, I apologize. Who knows? Hopefully this is working. We're trying Restream.io today, so we're streaming to Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. And anyway, Adam had a good idea. So if anybody is listening or watching and you have ideas about streaming and podcasting, please contact us. You should see our website, and it has our email or Facebook. Any way you want to contact us, we'd be glad to sort of help this process become much easier. Adam?
Okay, so we're going to start off with games that we've been playing this week. So I have actually gone back to Final Fantasy XIV. I've been meaning to get back ever since the latest update, but unfortunately, because I've been playing other things, I'm a completionist. I wanted to finish all those before I finally went back in. So Final Fantasy XIV is actually quite an old game. It originally came out back in 2010, so it's a 10-year-old game at this point. It's an MMO, that's why it's been so viable for so long. But the original release was supposedly quite awful. To the point where basically they had, that's why if you do know Final Fantasy XIV is now called Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn, because they basically completely overhauled the entire game and basically reset everything starting from scratch. And that was in 2013. So it's been in that current iteration since 2013, and it's been quite successful. So occasionally you'll see games compared to it. For example, Anthem came out recently and it did not do so well, and now they're going to do Anthem 2.0, and so some people have been referring to it as getting the Realm Reborn treatment. So apparently this not quite a meme, but definitely a cultural thing now that to restart these games after they've failed. So the most recent expansion is Shadowbringers. It came out in 2020, July 2nd, so it is actually still quite new. This is the third patch, or the third content edition that they've added onto it. So normally what they would do is they'll release an expansion and then they'll have content patches throughout until the next expansion. So we are in we're in the patch 3. And the way that Final Fantasy XIV typically does their content is you'll get the expansion, get a huge chunk of story, and then they'll do usually 3 patches, which will basically close out or finish up or give closure to the story that was in the expansion. And then the next 3 patches are going to be leading up into the new expansion. So this is the one that's supposed to kind of bring the whole Shadowbringers story together. And moving forward, we're going to start seeing what direction the game is going to be moving on with this next expansion. So this is a very interesting kind of MMO. So when we think of an MMO, a lot of people think of games like WoW or I want to say Ultima Online, but I don't even know if that's even a thing anymore. Elder Scrolls Online is the one I'm thinking of. And so a lot of people think of like that, you know, you're a guy, you're in the world, and you just kind of explore and do all that sort of thing. Well, Final Fantasy XIV, if you know Final Fantasy, it's a JRPG series, and so because of that, it's very story heavy. And Final Fantasy XIV kind of blends that with the MMO genre. So in a way, I've talked to my friends about this, and I've said that Final Fantasy XIV's story is one of my favorite stories in a Final Fantasy for a long time. So in a way, it's really weird. It's kind of designed, it's an MMO designed in the spirit of a single-player JRPG. So what you really do is they have a very strict, they call it the MSQ, the main story quest, that follows all these characters. You have a huge cast. There's lots of political intrigue and things going on. And if you are a solo player who loves Final Fantasy, you can play this as a solo game and basically ignore most of the MMO aspects of it and have a lot of fun. Now, that said, you would have to pay a subscription for it. So this is a subscription-based MMO. It's not free-to-play in the sense that Elder Scrolls Online or Black Desert or Terra or any of those games are. You do have to pay a monthly subscription, but personally I feel it's very worth it because they do give you a lot of content, and it's really high-quality content as well. But the downside to that is if you are looking for that more traditional kind of world-exploring MMO experience that you would have in, say, something like WoW, it's a lot harder to come by. My friends and I got into it because us living here in Taiwan, there was some difficulty for me trying to reactivate my American WoW account. So we were trying to look for games that we could play online together. So we had tried with Elder Scrolls Online, and we did League of Legends, and all these other things. And back then, Final Fantasy XIV would allow a free trial up to level 35. So we thought, you know what, let's just go ahead. It's free. We don't have to pay for a dime. Let's just try it out, see how it goes. And I really had a lot of fun with it, but I had one friend who really likes WoW, and for him, it was a little bit irritating because in WoW, you level your character up, and once you reach a certain level, you basically level out of a zone. So you can just move into the next area. You can drop all your quests, pick up new quests, and just you can kind of go wherever you want. But in Final Fantasy XIV, it's very story-driven. So if you want to move on to the next zone, you have to progress the story to the point where it would make sense for you to go there. And because of that, for him, it was a little bit irritating because he felt like there was a certain time investment in it. The other problem is something like WoW, you can go in with your friends, you can all basically sync up your quests together, and you can go questing together. In Final Fantasy XIV, since most of the questing you're going to be doing, they have small side quests, but most of the quests you're going to be doing are going to be either story-related or dungeon-related, because a lot of them are very story-heavy with lots of conversation. You couldn't have a guy out in the field while the other guy goes back and talks to people because you'd have no idea what the story was. So a lot of times, if you want to progress in the story, there will be times where it actually tells you need to disband your party so that you can go watch this cutscene, and then you'd have to go back into your party. So if you're the kind of person who only plays socially, it's probably not the best game for you. If you're the kind of person who really loves MMOs, loves to play socially, but also likes to kind of go in on your own time, then, like myself, then this is a great game because when you're alone, you have the story, you can play it in the same way that you could play a single-player game for the most part. But when your friends come on, then you can do dungeon crawling together, you can do special events, you can do Palace of the Dead, all these sorts of things. So I'd really recommend it for kind of a casual MMO, not so much a casual MMO player, but the kind of MMO player who doesn't just play socially. They play for themselves as well. I think that this is a really, really great investment. So another thing that I really like about it is in WoW, you pick your character, you pick your class, and then you level up. If you want to try another class, you have to create an entirely new character, start from scratch. And I know they've added things like the artifact armor, I think they call it, where if you have a character who's leveled up to a certain point, if you get another character, you can basically grab this armor and you can level that second character up much, much faster because you're a lower level than what your maximum artifact armor is. In Final Fantasy 14, however, the way that they address this is that your characters can change classes at any time, basically, as long as you're not in combat. So it'll just figure out whatever your highest level is, and any class that is below your maximum level is going to get an experience bonus, so you can level up your other classes faster. But on the bright side, that means if you are playing as a tank and you want to switch over to DPS or healer, it's just as quick as a button press, boom, you're that other class. You can continue on, as opposed to WoW, where you'd have to log out of that character, log into another character, find your friends. So I think that's very, very convenient. Now, another thing that my friend didn't like about it was he's really big into customization. He loves tech trees. He loves that kind of like, oh, I get 5% extra crit, or I get 2% lifesteal. He really likes that sort of customization. So in vanilla WoW, we played back in vanilla. They had the tech trees, and it was, he really loved it. Now, obviously, in an MMO, when you get to raid level, people are optimizing, and that really severely limits your options in terms of what tech or what you're building your character as, because there are meta builds or optimal builds. So in a way, you can't really customize as much as you really want to. If casually you can, but if you really want to be at the highest level, you can't really do that. Now, Final Fantasy 14 just said, we're going to do away with that. There's no tech trees. There's really no customization other than your character's appearance. So the way that you really play the way you want to play is you select the class you want to play as. So, for example, if you want a DPS, you could be a black mage, which is a caster, or you could be a red mage, which is another kind of caster, or a summoner, who's another kind of caster. So these are all caster classes. They all do magic, but they all do it in slightly different ways. So if you want slightly different gameplay, you would switch between the classes. There's no customization of, I have slightly more crit or anything like that. Now, you can equip things they call materia. You can equip materia on your gear that will give you slight bonuses to stats. So you could, increase your spell speed a little bit faster. So you're a little bit faster at casting. Or you could increase your crit damage by a slight amount. So there is a slight amount of customization in what materia you put on your gear. But for the most part, you're not going to need it. I have done the highest level rating content, with the exception of they have a special kind of boss fight where it's literally just one boss. You just fight that one boss. I've done some of those in the past. I haven't done any of the current ones, and I've done it without ever equipping material. So it's entirely doable. But basically, I think it also works really, really well because it means that they can balance the classes much more easily. Because if you can just say, well, this is a warrior. Let's just fix what we need to fix about the warrior. Not, this is a warrior. We have to fix all the trees. We have to fix all these customization options because this one is obviously dominant, so we have to tweak everything to do that. So they have a lot of, if you look at it compared to something like WoW, they actually have more base classes than WoW. However, in WoW, because each class has 3 specializations, there are more of those than there are here. So I would highly recommend this for somebody who really enjoys story-driven games, but they also want that kind of companionship. They want a social aspect to it. The kind of people who play Skyrim, but want to play Skyrim co-op, that sort of thing. Works really, really well. You go into a dungeon, you have other people helping you out. So that's what I'd recommend it for. And yeah, right now they're doing an event. So yesterday I did some streaming of grinding for that. So you can go ahead and check that out and see if it's for you. And I do ramble a bit. So that's my channel. I think it's just called Lahdisai. So Lahdsai. But if you go to our channel, Middle Age Gaming, obviously, on Twitch, you will see it under the recommended thing. So just go ahead to Middle Age Gaming, look at the recommended, channels. Koreans is there, mine is there, so you can go ahead and check that out, and then hopefully I'll be able to export that video over.